Title, for Reddit post. She promised she'd always be there, then one day, she just vanished. Part 1. Writing Hand Part 1/3. Posted by you/stranger still runnin'. r/true off my chest. I've debated writing this for a long time. Mostly because I still don't understand it. I've turned it over in my head so many times that every version of what happened feels fake, like a bad dream I rewatch in my head over and over. But it was real. She was real. Until she wasn't. It started with a message. I wasn't looking for anyone. That's the thing. I wasn't lonely, heartbroken, desperate, or scrolling dating apps at 2 a.m. like a cliché. I had a solid job, a small circle of good friends, and a comfortable rhythm to life. No drama. No ghosts. Just work, Netflix, gym, occasionally, and cheap wine on weekends. Then one night, I commented on a thread in r/books about The Shadow of the Wind, said something dumb like, "This book made me want to crawl into the pages and live in post-war Barcelona with a cigarette and permanent heartbreak." I didn't expect anyone to notice. But someone replied. "We can share the heartbreak. I'll bring the cigarettes." That was her. Her handle was something like you/Serafina_1987, though it got deleted later. I'll get to that. We ended up messaging back and forth under the thread. Then in DMs. Then on Telegram. It was like this little spark, quiet, casual, but instantly warm. Not flirting, really, just connection. The kind of back and forth where you feel like your sentences are lining up like puzzle pieces. And then came the voice notes. God, her voice. I don't know how to explain it except to say it didn't match the internet. It was low, warm, occasionally laughing mid-sentence. She spoke like someone who read poetry out loud to no one, and meant every word. Thoughtful pauses. Funny little tangents. She made the mundane sound cinematic. "I think heartbreak is just homesickness for someone who never existed," she said once. That stuck with me. Still does. Within a week, I was hooked. We didn't video call for a while, she had bad Wi-Fi, and honestly, I didn't press. I didn't care. I felt like I knew her without needing to see her. That's how deep it got. Our chats would go from random memes to intense, 3 a.m. confessions. She told me about her childhood, her love for obscure 1930s jazz, her dog, Archie, who apparently hated everyone but her, and the time she almost got arrested in Prague for jumping a metro turnstile during a thunderstorm. She said she worked as a freelance translator. Lived in a small city in Oregon. Said she hated phones. Loved old books. Could never sleep before 2 a.m. And me? I told her everything. Things I hadn't told anyone in years. She made me feel safe. Known. Like I could be messy and soft and human, and she'd still say, "I like your broken parts." I fell. Hard. The promise. It was on a rainy Tuesday when she said it. We were talking about ghosts, not real ones, metaphorical ones. She said, "I think everyone leaves. But I won't. I don't do that." And I replied with something like, "Don't promise things you can't keep." She paused. Then she said it. "I promise I'll always be here. Even if it's quiet. I don't leave." Then one day, she did. It wasn't dramatic. That's the worst part. No fight. No weird vibes. No cryptic message. Just silence. I sent her a meme at 11:12 a.m. on a Thursday. It showed two raccoons holding hands with the caption, "Me and the trauma I haven't processed." She would have laughed. No reply. An hour passed. Then 5. Then a day. 2. I messaged again. Then again. Then finally, just, "Are you okay?" No answer. I checked her profile. Gone. Deleted. I refreshed. Refreshed again. Searched her name everywhere we talked. Telegram, account inactive. Reddit, user does not exist. Instagram? Nothing. Like she had been scrubbed from the internet. It didn't make sense. I started spiraling. Was she fake? An elaborate catfish? AI? Had I been love-bombed by someone running a long con? But for what? She never asked me for money. Never hinted at anything shady. Never tried to manipulate me. She just talked to me. Got to know me. Made me feel real. And then she vanished. I tried to stay rational. People ghost. Maybe she had a crisis. Maybe she freaked out. Maybe something happened. But something didn't add up. A week later, I got a letter. Yes. A real letter. Mailed. No return address. Postmarked Portland. Inside was a single page. Typed. No signature. It said, "You weren't supposed to feel it like that. I'm sorry. Please don't look for me." That was it. I kept the letter. Still have it in a drawer next to my bed. I don't know what it means. I don't know who she was. Or if any of it was real. But I know this. She promised she'd always be there. And then she wasn't. End of part 1. Let me know if I should post part 2. She promised she'd always be there, then one day, she just vanished. Part 2. Posted by you/stranger still runnin'. 4 days ago. R/true off my chest. It's been 2 months since I got the letter. I've read it hundreds of times. I know the typeface now, it's Garamond. I know the weight of the paper. I know the slight smudge on the top right corner where it looks like a fingerprint pressed into the ink too soon. You weren't supposed to feel it like that. Please don't look for me. I tried to leave it alone. I swear I did. But it ate at me. Like rot under the skin. I had to know. Not even for closure. Just clarity. I had to know if I'd imagined her. I started looking. Not like stalker looking. Not at first. Just curiosity, right? I checked Reddit archives. Used Reddit, Undit, anything that might pull up cached posts. Most of her comments were gone, which is weird, because when someone deletes their Reddit account, sometimes you can still see fragments. But with her, it was like someone erased every trace. I remembered a thread she once mentioned posting in, something in r/glitch_in_the_matrix about a dream she kept having. I found the post. Her username was different. You/bird in a mirror. Same voice. Same cadence. Same kind of phrasing. I read through every comment like I was decoding a secret message. And then I hit something. One of her replies said, "I believe people disappear all the time. Not because they want to. But because they have to." That's when I stopped breathing. I went full detective. I knew she said she lived in Oregon. I knew the city started with an A. She once joked about how no one could ever spell it right, and how it made her hometown sound like a cough. That narrowed it down. I found Astoria. Not big. Not small. Seaside. Artsy. It felt right. I booked a flight. I know how that sounds. Insane. But listen, if someone had peeled back your entire life, exposed the rawest version of you, promised they'd be your safe place forever, and then disappeared without explanation, wouldn't you go? I told my boss I needed time off for a family thing. Packed a bag. Booked an Airbnb. And just went. Astoria was cold and damp, like a city perpetually caught in October. Gray skies. The kind of fog that makes headlights look like ghost eyes. Coffee shops that all smelled like cinnamon and regret. It felt like the kind of place she'd live in. I didn't know what I was looking for. I walked. A lot. Sat in cafes. Wrote in a notebook like I was a character in a noir film. Told myself I wasn't being ridiculous. On the 4th day, I saw her. She was across the street. Holding a tote bag. Laughing. I froze. Nearly dropped my coffee. It was her. Same posture. Same walk, this sort of drifting, unhurried pace like she was always dancing to music no one else could hear. I stood there, stunned, until someone bumped into me. By the time I looked back, she was gone. I sprinted across the street. Checked every storefront, peered into windows like a maniac. Nothing. That night, I sat on a bench overlooking the river, questioning everything. And that's when I got the message. Not on Reddit. Not on Telegram. It was an airdrop. Just one sentence. I asked you not to look. My phone didn't register any nearby devices. No name. No signal. It came and went like smoke. I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying. Why? No answer. Then came the box. I found it outside my Airbnb door the next morning. Small, plain cardboard. No name. Just a wax seal with a pressed flower. Inside was a Polaroid. Her. Standing in front of a building I recognized, an old bookstore I'd passed the day before. On the back, it said, "Some truths are kinder left buried." That was it. I felt like I was losing my mind. Every time I got close, she pulled away, like she was always 2 seconds ahead, writing the scene I was walking into. But I couldn't stop now. The bookstore. It was called The Second Page. Old, crooked windows. Smelled like dust and forgotten grief. The man behind the counter looked like someone who smoked clove cigarettes and argued about vinyl quality for fun. I asked if a woman named Serafina ever worked there. He frowned. "No one by that name here," he said. I showed him the photo. His face changed. Not recognition, hesitation. Like he was weighing something. Finally, he said, "She used to come in a lot. Quiet girl. Loved the poetry section." I asked when he'd last seen her. He hesitated again. 3 weeks ago. Came in with a guy. Seemed different. Different how? She was nervous. Kept looking around. Like she thought someone was following her. My stomach dropped. "Did she say anything?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "She said, if someone comes asking, tell them to stop. This isn't their story." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing every memory in my head. Every sentence she ever said. Every voice note, every typed-out paragraph, every sentence that sounded like a farewell in disguise. Was she in trouble? Was I being warned off? Or was this all some elaborate, what? Art project? Performance piece? I remembered a weird moment early in our chats. She once said, "If I vanish one day, promise you'll let me go. I'm not built for staying." I laughed back then. Thought she was being poetic. Now, it felt like foreshadowing. Then I saw the mirror. It was in an antique shop on the edge of town. Dusty window, half-faded sign, Memory Lane Antiques. I was just walking past. Not planning to go in. But in the display window was an oval mirror with writing etched across the top. "Objects in mirror are closer than they appear." A chill ran down my spine. Why? Because in one of our early conversations, she'd sent me a photo of a mirror just like it. Same shape. Same inscription. She said, "This mirror is cursed. I see versions of myself that don't exist." I walked in. The owner was old. Soft-spoken. When I asked about the mirror, she smiled and said, "Ah. That one belonged to a young woman. She brought it in 2 months ago." My heart pounded. Did she leave a name? The woman nodded. Serafina. She had been here. She had left something behind. And maybe, just maybe, she had left something else. Inside the mirror, barely visible unless you looked just right, there was something scratched into the bottom corner of the glass. A number. 7 digits. Looked like a P.O. box. I went straight to the post office. The guy at the counter looked tired and disinterested until I handed him a note with the box number. He raised an eyebrow. "You have a key?" "No," I said, trying not to look suspicious. He frowned. "That box hasn't had activity in weeks. Last thing picked up was a letter. Handwritten. Do you know who it was for?" He shook his head. "We don't track those." "Sorry." Before I could thank him, he added, "She was here in person, you know." The girl looked right at me and said, "He'll come. Don't tell him too much." My hands went cold. She knew I'd come. She had orchestrated this, or anticipated it. Like some puzzle I was being allowed to solve, one breadcrumb at a time. And I was still no closer to understanding why she left. Or what she was running from. But I knew one thing for sure. She hadn't lied when she said she'd never leave without a trace. Because every step I took, I found another shadow of her. Every clue was her way of saying, I'm still here. But not for long. And I wasn't ready to stop. Not yet. End of part 2, final chapter coming next. Posted by you/stranger still runnin'. r/true off my chest. 4 days ago. She left me a final clue. After the mirror. After the post office. After everything I thought might be the end, I convinced myself it was grief. Obsession. My mind trying to fill in the silence. Then something showed up. Not a message. Not an email. A photo. Taped to the inside of my windshield. It was black and white. She stood on what looked like a dock or a pier, holding something in her hand. A small object I couldn't quite make out, maybe a necklace or a stone. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes were locked on the camera. Still the same, but different. Older, in a way the camera couldn't explain. On the back, one word was typed. Return. And beneath it, a set of GPS coordinates. It led to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. I drove 10 hours that night. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just threw clothes in a duffel, grabbed a flashlight, some water, and drove north. Through Oregon, up into Washington. Through forests that looked like they hadn't seen pavement in decades. The GPS signal disappeared after a while. But the road was there, narrow, cracked, half swallowed by moss. The deeper I drove, the more the silence changed. It felt intentional. Like it was warning me. Or preparing me. Then the cabin appeared. Hidden behind trees. 2 stories, wood warped and dark from rain, ivy crawling up its sides. I thought I was going to find a dead end. But when I stepped out of the car, I saw a light. Inside. Flickering. I knocked. No answer. I tried the handle. It turned. The smell hit me first. Wood smoke. Dry herbs. Dust. It was quiet inside, but not empty. The kind of stillness that holds its breath. Then I saw her. Sitting in a worn-out armchair. Wearing a gray sweater. Hair tied up. Staring into the fire. She didn't look surprised. She didn't even flinch. Just said. You came. We sat in silence for a long time. She made me tea. I didn't touch it. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She looked tired. Not like she hadn't slept. Like she'd been running her whole life and finally stopped, but hadn't figured out how to breathe again. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked like it hadn't been used in days. I owe you the truth. And so she told me. She was part of a program. Some kind of underground psychological project. Started in the 80s. Funded quietly. Disguised as an alternative development collective. Children raised without fixed identity. No permanent name. No family unit. Every year, new role, new rules. No belongings. No roots. No emotional permanence. She was subject 37. They were taught detachment. Shape-shifting. Erasure. Some left the program broken. Others disappeared completely. She adapted. Survived. When she turned 18, they gave her money, a fake ID, and a bus ticket. She said she moved every 6 months for the next 10 years. New town, new persona, new story. I didn't exist, she said. Not really. Until you. She told me that when we met, she wasn't looking for anyone. But I made her feel seen. And that was the problem. I stayed too long. That's why I ran. I asked the question I'd been holding in my throat the whole drive. Did you love me? She didn't hesitate. Yes. That's why I had to leave. She reached into a drawer and pulled out a small box. Inside were little artifacts. A photo of us from a call. A matchbook from the coffee shop I said I loved. A napkin with a doodle I made of her, she screenshot it from a video call. A book page I quoted once, underlined in red. A note that just said, I almost stayed. I kept everything, she whispered. Even when I wasn't supposed to. I asked her what she wanted from me. She looked me straight in the eyes. I want you to live your life. Stop looking over your shoulder for someone who was never allowed to stay. I wanted to scream. Cry. Grab her and shake her and demand she fight for us. Instead, I nodded. Because deep down, I knew I couldn't save someone who was taught to disappear. She walked me to the door. The forest outside was silent. This is goodbye, she said. I tried to say something. Anything. But she hugged me. Tighter than I expected. Then let go. And stepped back into the shadows. That was a year ago. No contact since. No messages. No letters. No photos taped to my windshield. But weird things happen. A book I'd mentioned shows up in a donation box at work, with a flower pressed between the pages. A Spotify playlist I didn't make gets added to my account, full of our old songs. Once, I found a handwritten note on a street lamp outside my apartment. You weren't wrong. I just wasn't ready to be right. There's no proof it's her. But I know it is. She said she wasn't built to stay. But in her own strange way, I think she still does. In echoes. In fingerprints on glass I haven't touched. In songs that show up out of nowhere. She told me to forget her. I can't. But I think I've learned to stop chasing her shadow. She was real. And maybe that's enough. The end. Thanks to everyone who stuck with me through this. It helped more than I can say.